Hello and welcome to our special meeting here Thursday night at 7. Before we begin, we're going to kick things off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have our future city administrator in the audience. If you could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, good sir, we would be honored.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cainrath. Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to begin.
Yes, sir. Item number 1, public hearing and adoption of order approving an amendment to the New England Clean Energy Connect Tax Increment Financing District and Development Program. For requested action, the first item, to conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the New England Clean Energy Connect TIF and Development Program, and to consider if anyone claims the project will have a substantial detrimental effect to that party's property interests, and then determine if those detrimental effects are outweighed by the benefit of the New England Clean Energy Connect project.
As part of the public hearing, we will have staff present. Director Libby, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Nate Libby. I'm Director of Economic and Community Development. I'm here today to present information on an amendment that staff have prepared for the Clean Energy Connect TIF that you approved back in February. For the benefit of the public, just a quick recap. The New England Clean Energy Connect project is better known as the CMP corridor. That corridor has, as part of that 145-mile transmission line, a converter station that's under construction off of Main Street in Lewiston. Once the project is complete, it's estimated to be valued at about $340 million. It's a substantial project to support the transmission of hydropower from Quebec down to Massachusetts ratepayers. Massachusetts residents are paying for the project, and Massachusetts residents are effectively paying the property taxes to the city of Lewiston for this project. Back in February, you approved a tax increment financing district to take advantage of the sheltering benefits that the state provides through an economic development program called TIF. At that time, the program you adopted included no tax reimbursement to NECEC or CMP, and that's, I think, an important point to drive home, especially for the public. TIFs tend to get associated with tax reimbursements to help projects get off the ground. In this case, there is no tax reimbursement to CMP or the project itself. This TIF is really being used to fund economic development staff salaries and related projects and office expenses. What's novel here is we are moving some of the cost of salaries for municipal staff who work with me in my department in the practice of economic development to try to drive growth. That includes administration, marketing, finance, police department, and others. We're moving portions of those salaries over to the TIF to help relieve some of the pressure on the general fund. The program, as you approved back in February, also includes funding for capital projects, for marketing the city as an arts and business destination, grants for economic development activities, capital for a business development fund, as well as housing programs for shelters and housing first models and related programs to help support people experiencing homelessness. Through the process of working with DECD and preparing this application, we discovered the need for a technical amendment. The original TIF that you approved on my recommendation utilized what's called a single taxpayer high valuation exemption. This exemption exists to help treat towns equally when it comes to large industrial projects that are sited in their communities. You know, think of a town like Jay that hosts a really substantial paper-making operation. Jay would not be able to use TIFs but for this exemption. And so in a similar kind of vein, a scale of a $340 million converter station project, even with a city the size of Lewiston, I attempted to file the application utilizing that exemption. DECD advised we did not meet all the criteria, and so that triggered the need for an amendment. Basically, the amendment is going to make sure that all of our city's TIFs, all 18 of them, both active and proposed, stay under a valuation cap that is set in state statute. That cap is 5% of all citywide valuation can be in a TIF, no more. And with the original version that I'd sent you, we're above that 5% cap. So what we're proposing in this amendment is a reconfiguration of the map and the sheltering to get us under that cap, but provide the same amount of reimbursement, the same amount of TIF funding for economic development. It would provide for the same amount of valuation supporting your general fund. It really makes no other changes except for that. This is a table that summarizes the changes for those of us who really like to get into those details. I'll summarize it briefly. On the left-hand side, you'll see the original NECEC TIF that was approved back in February. In the middle column is the amendment that we published as part of the packet. Staff were working this afternoon to put the finishing touches. We discovered an error that was made in the calculation, and so what we've printed in your packets and what we'll describe in the presentation and the printed copies we have available for the audience basically adjust those numbers to hold everything neutral. So the original program had 40 acres in the TIF district. What we're proposing on that far right-hand column tonight is an 11-acre district. That 11-acre district is going to include those components that are listed up at the top. It includes the transformer pad, cooling tower, the current conversion equipment area, and the equipment enclosure. City assessor estimates the original assessed value of those components around $83.8 million. To hold everything neutral and to provide you the same funding that you need for your general fund, provide the same funding that we've requested for economic development staff and related city staff engaged in economic development, we'd be sheltering 98% of that smaller value. That provides $1.4 million of TIF revenue to support all of those activities I've described. The tax shift is within $1, which is fairly miraculous. And valuation supporting the general fund is still $257.8 million supporting the general fund. Our map makers were not available tonight at 4:30 when I worked up this amendment, but this is my attempt to draw 11 acres on the revised map. We'll get the perfectly polished version on Monday morning. So the amendment summary, we're going to reduce the TIF district from 40 acres to 11. We're asking to reduce the original assessed value as a consequence from $186 million to $83.8. Increase the sheltering from 55% to 98%. And with this amendment, it provides a substantially similar amount of sheltered valuation, sheltering benefit, which we've talked a lot about, as well as TIF revenue. The amended order on your desk, the amendments we're asking you to consider are highlighted in yellow. Basically, everything that's described up here is captured in the amended order. Be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
At this point, before we take questions, we'll go to, since we're still in the middle of our public hearing, we'll go to public comment.
Matt Roy, Ward 3. If I remember, based on our myriad of workshops on this, the finance director had concerns at...
Do you mind just lowering your voice just a little bit?
That's my normal voice. Apparently, the system works better than usual, but anyway. The finance director during the workshops, December and January, had concerns even at 30 to a retention value from the TIF of in the 40 to 50 range, and now it's 80% higher than what we just approved 6 weeks ago. Do we foresee any negative impact from increasing the TIF? Like I said, Finance Director Roy stated she had concerns at a 40 to 50% TIF district of value while retaining basically ring fencing that value from the TIF district. And now we're going from 55, what was published yesterday afternoon actually, going to 73. Now we're 70% higher than the 55, and we don't foresee any negative impact. And I guess I would dovetail Councilor Grant's comments about our 80% rule on debt retirement into that also. Thank you.
Further public comment? Public comment is now closed. Anything further you'd like to say, Director Libby, at this point?
I think it's probably worth repeating that the amendment that we're proposing provides for a substantially similar amount of shelter valuation. And what we mean by that is the original TIF was large, and we're shrinking the footprint. And so we're shrinking the value at the same time. And to create a similar amount of TIF revenue available, we're increasing that sheltering percentage from 55 to 98. I understand it can look like we are impacting the general fund by taking this step, but the modeling that we've done in partnership with the finance director and the city assessor, the goal with this amendment is to hold everything the same as what you've approved in February.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank you, Director Libby, for all your work on this. And I realize it does basically give us the same outcomes that we were looking at with the original TIF by changing the assessed value and the area there. I guess I do have one question about going forward. So the TIFs that we currently have proposed fall underneath that valuation cap. That presumably means we can't create any new ones, but am I right in assuming that once the revaluation happens, that even though our tax revenue won't go up, our overall valuation will go up, thereby raising that cap? Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. In the back of your packet, I produced a spreadsheet of all 18 active and proposed TIF districts. And if you head sort of towards the bottom, the third line from the bottom, you'll see a box that has 6.69 million. And so that's the amount of valuation we could put into a TIF going forward. 6.69 million. So that's a pretty substantial amount. Most of our TIFs start out at a very small number, and those are captured in that OAV column.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those TIFs start out at $88,000. Others are $40,000. Some are more than that. The other part of this is that the cap is a moving target. It moves annually. And so this cap is good for another 4 days. And then April 1st hits. And the city's valuation is going to take a jump. And so that cap is going to effectively, go up for us. And that's what will happen in 4 days. And then the following year, a lot of the Clean Energy Connect valuation is going to be realized. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be a major jump in the citywide valuation. So this cap is going to be bumping upward as the value in the city grows.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Najin.
Well, thank you for reworking this. From my understanding, the overall valuation of the project remains the same. We're just simply encapsulating a smaller acreage area to net the same planned amount to set aside. A couple of questions that I have when I look at 4.81% of our total valuation is still a substantial amount of that's a big number, right? And even when the valuation goes up, I think the question is do we have an estimate of what we'd be looking at as our overall percentage of TIFT value as of April or after the reeval? The reason why I'm asking this, I think we have enough acreage to include a decent amount of possibly the downtown business redevelopment zone. But if we ever decide to establish a downtown business redevelopment zone, we need to have the flexibility of having some funding in that. And the same argument for if we were going to TIF out development for, let's say, single-family or duplex homes in a particular, maybe it's a neighborhood that already exists, maybe it's a new neighborhood. But just thinking about the ways we can use TIFs in the future, and if we're kind of kneecapping ourselves in some way, ultimately knowing that a lot of the development that happens is predicated on some type of a tax abatement. So just to get your feedback on that, where do we think we sit?
Sure. 4.8 would be the evaluation of all TIF districts, but the cap is calculated excluding affordable housing TIF districts. So right below that number, you'll see 4.69%. So that's the actual cap we're concerned with. If all things are held equal and we do no economic development for the next 12 months, which is not what's going to happen, it's not our plan, it doesn't represent the projects that are in the queue, but for academic discussion, if all things are held equal, 4.69 is going to drop to about 4.45 in 4 days. And then from there, it's going to be around 4, which gives you about 30 million, 25 to 30 million of OAV potential. And so that's part one of the answer. I think part two of the answer is if we are at some point at the 5% cap, I personally feel like that deserves celebration. I think we're maximizing the benefit of this powerful tool that the state's given us. I'm not saying we stop there and we're at 5 forever. I think we can amend TIFs. I think we can, some of these TIFs will expire and they'll come off. I think if we are talking about a downtown development district, downtown TIFs are exempt from the cap as well. And then finally, if we attract so much development that we max out despite all of that, I think another tool I'm interested in exploring with the council is joint development agreements, which don't impact the tax side of things, but they are a way to partner with developers to offset extraordinary development costs like building roads, building water and sewer, utility lines, other related sort of site work things that we have the capacity to do, we have an interest in doing that could help with the question you're getting at.
That's great. And just as a follow-up for that, is there the possibility of getting an updated list just showing us when these TIFs do expire?
Sure.
Okay, that would be very helpful. I know that some were for expansion of business that occurred in the community and not simply housing pieces. One of the things that stands out too is the Exit 80 Lewiston Omnibus TIF. That was for all of the development that has happened in the neighborhood that like where Arcadia Acadia Charter School is in FW Webb. Is that correct?
I think Exit 80 is undeveloped land primarily around Exit 80. If I recall, when I was sitting in Councilor Ehrman's seat, it was a Gendron project. Part of the extraordinary site cost was blasting a bunch of the rock.
The ledge, yeah.
In the areas around Liberty Mutual, that TIF is up. It's on that side of.
That side of the highway.
And so this sits in a TIF funding piece, even if the development isn't happening? I'm just trying to picture that in my head, like how this is added to the total and yet doesn't seem that there's development happening.
Sure. The OAV is the original assessed value. So what was the value of the land put into the TIF district on day one of the TIF? And so these figures don't capture development that's occurred. Okay. With Exit 80, to my knowledge, there's been no added value. We can confirm that for you. Not sure. Yeah.
That's accurate.
Okay, thanks. Those are my questions. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Further questions, comments from Councilor Chittum? Yes.
Director Libby, Assessor Healy, I would like to thank you. I know that this has been a massive effort. It's been a correction because of a decision that was made in Augusta with the Department of Economic and Community Development there. For all intents and purposes, this has the same net effect to the city that the original application had. This is a piece of housekeeping that has kept both of you extremely busy for quite a while, and I appreciate very much the efforts that you put into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to ditto what he said. No, I really appreciate both of what you've done, especially yourself. Director Libby is still fairly new at this job, and you jumped right into it, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councillor Sol, did you wish to speak?
Funny bone. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I understand before we go any further. The 55% to the 98%, but it's a smaller number that we're taking, that we're, I don't want to say hiding, that we're protecting or sheltering?
Sheltering.
That we're sheltering, but it's the smaller, it's quite a bit of a difference, a smaller number than
Yeah.
the 55%. So it's the same number, it's just a different path to get there.
Yeah, I wonder if Dave in the back could put the PowerPoint back on the screen. So on the line that says original assessed value, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, original assessed value, over on the left, we originally said 186 million was going to go into the TIF. And the plan was to shelter 55% of that figure. The ECD has said that that doesn't work with the caps that they have. And so what we're proposing is, over on the right-hand side, 83 million in original assessed value going into the TIF and sheltering 98% of that. And the effect of that is basically it generates the same amount of TIF revenue, 1.4 million. It has the same impact of a tax shift, about 860,000, and it provides 257 million supporting a general fund. So it really is making adjustments to numbers to preserve the financial projection of the TIF as well as the program that you adopted.
It looks like it's like maybe a $500 difference, I think.
Yeah,
that's
it's strangely close, yeah.
So the same amounts are still going to go into the general fund?
Within $500,
Okay,
roughly.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Any further questions or comments from the council? Councillor Najin.
Yeah, I would just like to state that I'm very pleased with the overall result of the TIF, the fact that we're sheltering our assessed value in order to continue to get our share of revenue sharing from the state, while pulling some costs from the general fund that are frankly required and needed for the future of the city. So, as well as the continual running of the city. One way or the other, we were going to spend that money. And in this format, we don't have to battle what we can sacrifice or what we can move forward with every year while the TIF is in place. So, well done, and thank you for your consideration for the taxpayer as well. So.
You know, you guys didn't do so bad, so thank you very much. Further questions or comments from the council? All right, public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to adopt the order.
Okay, thank you. The motion before you would be to adopt the order approving an amendment to the New England Clean Energy Connect Tax Increment Financing District and Development Program. And we will just note for clarification that you're adopting the revised order that was distributed by Director Libby earlier this evening.
Correct.
That has the changes to the 7th whereas clause.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Chittum, second by Councillor Glant. For further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Council from Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Ward 7.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Excellent, thank you. Director Libby, Assessor Healy, thank you so much. We appreciate it. This now concludes our special meeting in Lewiston. You have a wonderful evening. Oh, I almost concluded. Are we off or on? I don't. Oh, we're back on. Okay, Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to adjourn.
Yes, would you like a motion to adjourn?
Yes,
So moved.
Councilor
Councillor.
Second.
Counselor Najin, seconded by Counselor Chittum. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counselor from Ward 1?
Yes.
Word 2?
Yes.
Word 3?
Yes.
Word 4?
Yes.
Word 5?
Yes.
Word 6?
Yes.
Word 7?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much. Now we're really done. Have a great night, Lewiston.